I never believed in curses or haunted places until I rented that apartment in the old building at the edge of town. It was advertised as affordable, quiet, and secure. But from the moment I stepped inside, something felt wrong. The walls looked like they were sweating. The floor sagged slightly under my weight, and a single flickering bulb in the ceiling barely lit half the room. The landlord, an old man with too many wrinkles and teeth that were just a little too sharp, just smiled when I asked about the building's history. "Oh, it's just old," he said. "Don't mind the stories. They're nonsense." But he never did explain why no one ever stayed for more than a month. The first night was unnerving. The building was quiet, asterisk to asterisk, quiet. The usual city noises were muffled, like the apartment existed in its own bubble of sound. Then, at precisely 3 in the morning, the light bulb flickered and went out. The room plunged into a blackness so absolute it felt suffocating. I tried to reach for my phone, but it was like the darkness was a physical weight, pressing down on my hands, slowing me down. And then I heard it, breathing, slow, deliberate, and wet. It wasn't mine. It was close, impossibly close, right behind me. I froze. The air grew thick, clinging to my skin like a damp cloth. After what felt like an eternity, but was probably only 60 seconds, the light flickered back on. There was nothing there. I tried to dismiss it as sleep paralysis, a trick of my own mind. But sleep paralysis never smells like iron and rot. The next day, I examined the walls more closely. The plaster had stains, which I assumed were from old leaks. But as I stared, the stains seemed to pulse, a subtle movement, like veins just beneath the surface. And then I saw them. Faces. Faces were forming in the discoloration, pressed outward, their mouths frozen in silent screams. I rubbed my eyes, telling myself it was just my imagination running wild. But that night, one of the mouths moved, slowly, deliberately. It opened and whispered my name. The sound didn't come from the room. It came from asterisk inside asterisk the wall itself. It crawled into my ears and settled deep behind my eyes. I couldn't stop thinking about it, even when I was outside, even in the bright sunlight. I tried to leave. I packed my things, shoved everything into boxes, and reached for the doorknob. But the hallway was wrong. It stretched endlessly in both directions, doors multiplying with each step I took. Doors I had never seen before, doors that had no place in the building's layout. They rattled violently. Some swung open just enough to reveal a sliver of perfect blackness. Some pressed against their frames, as if whatever was inside was desperate to get out. I ran back into my apartment and slammed the door shut. The bulb blew out completely, plunging me into total darkness again. I heard wet footsteps moving along the floor, circling me, dragging something that scraped and scraped against the wood. The breathing returned, louder this time, ragged and wet. It moved with intention, sniffing, tasting the air. Then I felt it, a cold, clammy touch against the back of my neck, a hand that was not warm, not alive in any sense I could comprehend. It started pulling me backward, toward the wall. I fought, kicking, hitting, screaming, but it was so much stronger than I was. The wall felt like flesh under my hands. My own name echoed from every corner of the room, whispered and elongated. The whispers became voices, dozens, then hundreds of them, all repeating my name in a perfect, horrifying harmony. Then I blacked out. I woke up in a different room, an unfamiliar one. The apartment was gone. The hallway was gone. This new space was smaller, tighter, suffocating. The walls pressed inward, and the air reeked of rust and decay. I stumbled forward, desperate to find a light. Every surface was covered in writing, scratched deep into the plaster-jagged letters, spelling my name. Over and over, each one slightly distorted, slightly wrong. The faces were there, too, pressed into the walls, their eyes wide open, mouths stretched in eternal screams. Some of the faces looked like mine. Some looked like me, but older, twisted and deformed. One of them moved its lips in a perfect, silent imitation of my own mouth. I found a door. It led nowhere, or rather, it led everywhere. I opened it, expecting sunlight, a street, the world outside. Instead, the hallway stretched endlessly into darkness, lined with doors that whispered and moaned, begged and screamed. Some of the doors shook violently, some barely moved, some bled a dark, viscous liquid that pooled on the floor. I ran. Every step felt like moving through water. I screamed, but my voice echoed back, distorted, alien, layered over hundreds of copies of itself. I tried to turn around, to escape, but there was no end to the hallway. The apartment itself began to change. Each night, it became less of an apartment and more of an organism. The walls grew veins, the floor pulsed under my feet, and the ceiling sagged lower, as if trying to crush me. The whispers became constant, day and night. My dreams were invaded by scenes of the hallway, the doors, the faces. I saw myself inside the walls, pressed flat, screaming silently. The faces in the plaster watched me. Sometimes I thought I saw them blink, or smirk, or laugh at me when I wasn't looking. I tried to leave again. I stepped out of the apartment, hoping to find the lobby. But the building was not as it had been. Staircases twisted in impossible ways. Hallways looped back into themselves. The windows were black voids, reflecting nothing but the terror in my own eyes. Shadows moved of their own accord, shapes that were not humans slithering along the edges of my vision. And then I heard a voice that was not a voice. It was my own, but slower, guttural, echoing with a sound of primal hunger. "Come back," it said. "Come back and stay forever." I ran back inside. The apartment had shifted again. The walls had closed in even further. The stains, the faces, the mouths, they were all closer now. I could see them breathing, twitching, writhing. One mouth, directly across from me, opened and spoke. "Welcome home." The voice was mine. I screamed, but no sound came out. The faces in the wall leaned closer. A hand pushed through the plaster, pale and slimy, and grabbed my shoulder. I turned, but there was nothing there. I only felt the pressure, the pool. The whole room pulsed like a living thing. I fell to the floor, crawling, trying to escape, but the walls seemed to stretch, pulling me back. The landlord's face appeared in the flickering light of the dying bulb. His teeth too sharp, his eyes too dark. He whispered, "They always stay." And then the bulb went out for the last time. I woke up on the floor, gasping, alone. Or so I thought. Then I saw it. A shadow in the corner, moving against the faint light from the window. It took my shape, my posture, my voice. It whispered, "You belong here." I tried to run, but the shadow was already me, and I was already it. I don't know if this is the building's doing, the landlord's, or just my own mind breaking. But I know this. The apartment is still for rent. The walls are always hungry. The shadows wait for the next tenant. And when you step inside, if you hear the whispers calling your name, do not look behind you. Do not open the doors. Do not stay. Because once you belong to the walls, the building never lets go. Sometimes, late at night, I think I can still hear it calling. My own name, stretched and twisted, echoing through walls that aren't there. I don't sleep. I don't live. And I don't exist outside these walls. The apartment waits, always, and the walls, they remember. Thank you for listening to my story. If you enjoyed this journey into the dark, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more tales from the shadows. Stay safe